Hello folks, NC4XL. A little different video today. So, what's the subject on the old man's mind? General conversation with another ham. We were talking about the map and where the pin is, and it's a long ways around, and I get confused. To give you an example, Mountain to Sea Trail is up on the west side of Durham, runs all the way down to the coastline. Not in a straight line, obviously, and not continuously if anybody operates that particular park or trail within a park. But the pin is way over there, and I'm down here in the eastern side of the state. How can I still be running that? New activators. Hello, this is for you. New hunters. Wondering how can they do that? This is for you too. First things first. Research, research, and research. If you are going to be heading out to an area and you look on the app and it says the pin is here, but you know that the park or the forest or the wildlife management or the game land is quite extensive, and sometimes there's one inside the other. I'll share a couple notes. This is really just to help you realize, first things first, the pin is not the park itself. It's in the park in a area. That area is by a GPS location. Sometimes you may find it in a parking lot because somebody fat-fingered the information and created it in a parking lot. It does happen. We're human. Remember that. So if you're new and you're looking at the map and you say, well, that park's quite big, under each one of the parks, when you click on the little dot, the yellow dot that indicates it's a park, there's going to be some informational links. Take the time to go to the web page that it takes you to, activators and hunters questioning, can they be there? Are they there? Where are they located? Because it gets confusing, and you're okay to be confused because you don't understand. The pin is just a point of reference, not the only access. If you go to the page that it's linked to, North Carolina, it'll take you to North Carolina natural resources for the forestry park and so forth. Then you're going to be able to see, you can download it if you like, a map that'll show that the game land is in green, the yellow is not part of the game land, this park encompasses this amount of acreage, etc. There's a page for that park that tells you more history about it. A lot of information off of that little yellow dot, and going to the link that your map coordinators, and most of them are taking some good time and trying very hard to provide us, the new activator, or a new hunter to Parks on the Air, where that is, and the maps to see it. And that is something that you keep in the back of your mind. I'm going to repeat it again. One thing God tells us in the Bible many times over is to teach us and remind us the same thing here. If I repeat it enough, it'll make a little bit more sense because you'll remember it. The pin is only a reference point. It is not the only point for you to access the park. There are several accesses, and we'll give you an example. I just ran a park. It's a twofer. Suggs Mill Pond, State Game Land. Suggs Mill Pond, in certain portions of that game land, is Mountain to Sea Trail. Not all over. If you go to Turnbull, that's an educational site. When you first get into Turnbull, you can go to the exhibit on the left-hand side of the drive-in. Right across from it on the right-hand side, where you park your car, is the Trailhead Mountain to Sea trail sign. Yet in Turnbull, if you go 3 miles in to the area where the shelter is, you're no longer in a threefer, you're in a twofer. Bladen Lake State Forest encompasses the educational center. So I have a twofer in the back. I have a threefer in the front. The trail goes from where I'm at in the front towards Jones Lake. None of that means anything to any of you because you're not familiar with the area, but the point is, because it's in the park, the yellow dot that you're referring to, it don't mean it's there. You have several sections of the trail for Mountain to Sea. Now, many of you are in different states with different types of trails. And the first suggestion is take a look at their site online to see if they have a mapping to show where the trail goes. Because it goes into that park doesn't mean where you're located at, where you're transmitting from, is in there. You have to follow the guidelines that Parks on the Air sets up about how many yards and feet from the trailhead. So because it goes there and you're there, that doesn't mean you're there unless you're on the trail. Research is one of the words I said initially. And if you'll take the time, get excited, yes, about going out and putting a park or 2 or 3 or 4 or a row, etc. But do the research so you know where you're at. Some parks, they're closed. Hello, let's talk about a scenario that doesn't make sense. You go to a park. There's a gate going across it. It is locked. Sitting outside the gate does not constitute work in the park. It's work in the parking lot, and there's no entity for the parking lot unless you're inside the property of the park. No, you can't take your antenna and throw a wire over the tree, over the fence to get into the park because your transmitter and you are not in the park, only the antenna. I say that for a reason because I've heard people talk about backing up to a gate and aiming the antenna at the park. And once they say that, for me, myself, and I don't work them. They're not in the park. But that's a preference. This is just information. That's all it is for. I'm not the cop. I don't work people I don't feel are there, but I want to make sure that when you go there, if you're new, do your research so that you don't assume the yellow dot means that's the only place you can activate. No, that park is thousands of feet, square yards, feet, acres, however you want to break it down, that you can activate. Find a place that's safe. As safety is very important, by the way. If your new activators go out, aim out to look out. If you're looking out so you can leave if you have to break down real quick and go, make sure you don't have to back up. Aim your vehicle out. It's a little bit of safety so that all you got to do is get in and drive. And there's some park areas that may require it. If you talk to any of the senior experienced, not old people, I'm old people, but if you talk with senior people who put out excessive amount of parks, they will share some stories. Sometimes I wish there was a page that we could all sit down and share some of the horror stories that we run into. The yellow dot on your map only indicates that it's in the park, not the entire park. You go anywhere you want within the guidelines of that map, but you don't have to go where the pin is. That's just to get you there. And I'm saying it again, the pin just gets you there. You can Google search and look at the map. and see the roads, other accesses, boat landings, etc., that may have the sign there. If you're out there, if you take a picture of it with your cell phone's going to timestamp where you're at. And probably if you have it set up for location, it'll give you a location for further reference that you can go back and look to make sure you know where you're at. Not all parks are within parks. Some butt up against. In county hunting, we'll say it's a county line. That's where this county ends and this one begins, and you sit your vehicle across both, you're in the county line. Well, it doesn't work that way with parks. If one park is within another park, that counts. If it butts up against but does not go into the other park, you can't be in both with your antenna and your car and your transmitter, because that's not a twofer. That's two individual parks. Are you confused yet? That's why I'm sharing it. Sometimes people will think this park butts up against this park, so that's a twofer. No. A trail goes through the park by 100 yards. You're from that trailhead, then you can activate it as a twofer or threefer, whatever. But if it's a quarter of a mile away, the trailhead's a quarter of a mile away from where you're activating, that's no longer a twofer because it doesn't meet the parks on the air guidelines. That's not me. That's me sharing it with you so that you have an idea. I hope that this little blurb answers some questions. Remember, if you have a question and I can answer it, I will. It costs you nothing. If you want to see other people that are experiencing fun with ham radio, I have a page. It's what I did on ham radio today. Very simple. When you fill out the join, please put your call sign in, because I'll delete it if you're not. I don't want private people other than amateur radio operators there. My own family is not there. And I try to make it so that we can all talk about ham radio, whether it's single sideband, CW, if you're into FT8, PSK 31, if you have activities with youth and you want to advertise there, if you have your YouTube page that you want to advertise there, it's ham radio related only, then use it. It costs you nothing. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to like. If you want to view and laugh at the old man, come and laugh at me. I don't mind. But that's our little blurb today. NC4XL, North Carolina for extreme lovers. And that I'm not just Dom, darling old man. Here today, don't know what tomorrow will bring. Be good. God bless.